we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Teddy told me that in Greek, nostalgia literally means the pain from an old wound. It's a twinge in your heart, far more powerful than memory alone.
Hi, everybody. I am Nick. Welcome to this week's episode of the Friday Night Frenzy, where everything is canon and the topics, well, they're
guidelines, the actual rules.
all right. So let's bring in our old host of Mermagoo. First off, we got.
And I have my mind, and a mind needs books like a sword needs a whetstone.
How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing all right, man. Let me be the first to congratulate you on last week's con victories.
Oh yes. We'll get more into that here in a second, but thank you. Yes. All right, let's bring in the next guest.
I don't care.
Hey, movie theater, and then hey, Nix. What you up to?
Not much.
Pretty cool. So I'm just kind of hunting down the last one, and lastly, we have a returning feature, a frequent guest.
People keep asking if I'm back, and I haven't really had an answer. But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Hey, how you doing?
Good to be the last and least among them, but it's been a crazy day.
Very, very crazy from what I hear. So, movie theater king, we're talking about like nostalgia and kind of the dangers of it a little bit, because we always talk about like how much like in my day things are so much better back in my day. But we're talking like I wanted to kind of do a little bit of a different thing, like talk about how much better things are now. Like, yeah, looking in the past is great, but things have improved so much then. But yeah, like other thing they said is we got a little housekeeping to get into. So yeah, I did the convention and it was really, really friggin' great. How was your guys' week going? Like, oh, sorry. So, yeah, sorry. I was like, okay. Chris, how's your week been?
Slow. I'm glad I'm limping through the finish line now on a Friday. But yeah, this week just dragged.
Yeah, it's been a bit of some stuff has happened, but hey, so as far as I got some pictures. So we meet Wild Death with Chelsea Lu, who kind of drove 3 hours to come see me, which that was crazy.
Oh wow.
That's me being there's my booth right there. There's all the Screecher goodness.
Oh nice.
In front of it. And then some really great
don't say his name. Oh, I was gonna say you can't say that one on YouTube. They'll get your channel struck.
Oh. It's me posing my morpher. Oh, there's a little bit of crossover you don't need right there.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, it's like the cosplay was really good here.
Nice.
Thank you, Keely, just kind of going over some pictures. And yep, they bought a comic. Quicksilver bought my comic.
Sweet.
Oh, this one was
Pyramid Head.
Next.
Nothing very eventful.
So, yeah, she was really adorable. Like that lady.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were cool. Oh, I had to chase them down because I wanted a picture of them because, like, yeah, Witcher cosplay.
Nice.
She actually recognized me from a prior event, so that made me really happy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it looks like you had a pretty fun and successful con, all things told.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, some got savage here, and then yes, this was a highlight of my weekend. I got to sell my comic to Batman.
Nice.
Batman.
How cool is that? I stole my comic to Batman, and they caught all the
Ketchum.
comics.
Oh, Cuphead and
Cuphead.
Mugman.
Yeah, it was adorable. So this one actually, I posted a photo, and it actually kind of caused some people, like, I posted the comment. They said this person told me I was a third-rate creator with a fourth-rate comic. Now, anyone who knows Yu-Gi-Oh knows that's a playoff of like
You're a third-rate artist with a fourth-rate comic book.
Exactly. But some people didn't get the reference, and they thought she was insulting me. And
Oh no! So they're all like shitting on this poor woman.
Exactly. And I kind of had to go in the comments like, I mean, I appreciate the people who came to my defense. Don't get me wrong. It's really nice of them. They said, like, all things considered, they said some really nice things. But it was just like, oh, crap.
I'm so sorry. She gets like death threats.
I
Hey, what's
hated
going
being
on?
insulted by her.
yeah. People pay good money for that.
Screw the
I don't
rules. I have money.
I don't think Kaiba needs to start an OnlyFans. Maybe he has a different service called Only Duelists. Oh my god.
I mean, honestly, I
this was
know
really cool.
some women
This
out
guy-
here who would thoroughly disagree with you. That if Kaiba had an OnlyFans, they would be shelling. They would be shelling out big time.
I imagine with the OnlyFans economy, there probably is like guys who pay women to thoroughly destroy them at like Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic as like some sort of gratification thing. Like I'm
That's a
sorry,
dominant
I'm not even
thing.
shaming. Like,
Man.
I mean, whatever it takes to, float your boat, I guess.
whatever gets your combos off, I'll just say that. But
Some
anyway, these
Warhammer
are really
40K.
cool. Yeah, this guy even had like a voice changer and everything. That was really cool.
Really?
Hey,
One of my
Toby,
codex
huh?
at Starties?
Yeah, these we found the
crow.
crow. Yeah. Jill Valentine.
Yeah. Resident Screecher.
Oh my god. Greg Berlanti was there. Like, yeah.
Female Loki.
Yep. And then oh yeah, I've heard there's kind of some issues with that. So there's
God.
there's a reason I brought my Power Morpher on the second day, which that's the reason why.
Hey,
Oh, nice.
Johnny Young Bosch.
That's not Johnny Young Bosch.
I'm sorry,
No.
I went to a different con and he was there, so I'm confusing. I'm confusing myself.
Wait, are you
These are
saying that
Wires
they all
Con.
look?
It's been a day. Please forgive me. It has been a day.
So
Says
that
his name up
is
there.
Jeffrey Paizo. He's the White Dino Thunder Ranger.
Right,
And
right.
basically, it was towards the end of the day, and I'd done so well at this con. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna treat myself, and I got a picture with them. They didn't allow videos, otherwise they do a morphing video. But next best thing. Oh yeah, she was really nice.
Lich, yep.
I'm sorry, but this picture is ruined because Baby Shark is in the background.
Did it.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, and then that was my adventures at the Monroe Pop Fest this weekend. I am happy to announce that it was my biggest Comic-Con yet. Like, in terms of sales, I broke my personal best record.
That is definitely cause for celebration.
Oh, absolutely. Congratulations, man.
Seriously.
Well, I stand corrected by Lug here. So yeah, if you made it this far, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. gotta do that. Do all that beautiful things. So yeah, Nix, how's your week been?
Me? Oh, I'm not too bad. It's slow. Just kind of meandering through the week. I did end up actually changing my room around a little though, so that's exciting for me.
Oh, nice. That's nice.
Experiencing the weirdest feeling right now because now all of a sudden my bed looks and feels a lot smaller than it did before.
Oh no.
And I don't know how.
The feng shui is off.
All right. So just to let everyone know, we are officially 2 weeks out from the launch of Screecher number 2. We are 2 weeks out. So, if you have not signed up, please do so down below. I really should be, I am really behind on this kind of stuff. So
Jesus, dude, you're releasing your Kickstarter just as my one of my friends is releasing his Kickstarter as well.
there's more than enough room for everybody. So here
that's
is
true.
the current this is what we got for people. Like, this is a draft. Do need a peek into the campaign and whatnot. So gonna have two covers on offer at launch, stickers, trading cards, and then I got some really cool stretch goals for you. RJ is gonna be handling distribution, Comics Wellspring. Yeah, just kind of doing a quick little kind of overview. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool, I'd say. So let's kind of unless there's any big topics people want to discuss, let's kind of jump into these. Is there any big topics anyone want to bring up?
No, I think we can just go ahead and jump in the main topic here and just dive on in.
All right. So the big thing is nostalgia. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I probably haven't. It's common that we look upon the back in my day, Shunny. Probably not Fund My Comic, Indiegogo, maybe, I don't know. I'm just doing one for right now, but we'll see. Yeah. So yeah. The thing with nostalgia, it's always really easy to be like, oh, things were so much better back then, blah blah blah. But honestly, while some things may be true, a lot of times we are living in the best times. Chris, would you like to expand upon that?
Sure. I can think of a lot of technological things that have advanced so much since my heyday back in the 80s and 90s. For example, the ubiquitous, always online broadband internet connection was like a huge boon. Back in the day, we had a 9600 baud on copper wire voice lines on our phone. And anytime the wind blew or someone picked up or whatever, you'd lose connection. And we didn't even really have web pages to visit. We had bulletin board services. And it was such a pain in the ass to even connect because you had to go through WebSockets and all these other fun you had to basically set up the internet every time, browsers and stuff. It was revolutionary when AOL came online, and then we started seeing things like Netscape Navigator and Internet Explorer. But before that, dude, it was a nightmare. And
yeah, my earliest internet memories are from the late 90s, where things were a lot easier. I mean, it's the late dial-up days where things were, AOL was very much a mature product at the point. I think we got internet in my place around 97. Mm-hmm. So that's the internet in the 97. You would have killed for that back in your day.
Yeah, but even still dial-up because most phone lines, or at least here in old country,
dude,
the
most people these days don't even, sorry to interrupt you, but most people these days don't remember the fact that when you had dial-up and you want to get a picture of anything, get your minds out of the gutter, but anything.
I mean that was the kind of that's why people were downloading pictures.
Yeah, but
whoa.
Oh, anyway, to expand upon. Okay, he's back.
Whoa.
Mic issues as always, but either way, it takes you it took you 5 minutes for one picture to load. Nowadays, you click on a picture, it's up like that.
Back in my day, we had to wait 5 minutes to see a boobie.
Yeah.
Now you can go on the hub, you can go on the hamster, you can go anywhere you want to see the boobies. We had to wait 5 minutes to see to see. I'm trying to think of a '90s model.
Captain
To see
Janeway.
Pamela and oh my god, I know what you're referencing. I know exactly. Plow
Terrible.
King, Plow King.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible. But no, like the thing was is it wasn't just so much that we had dial-up. It was the fact that
ACA.
most phone lines weren't set up for data transference. They were dirty copper voice lines. So your signal, like, oh god, multiplayer. I remember playing Diablo back in the day when the first Diablo came out. And we were like, awesome, we can spawn it on somebody else's computer and play over the internet. Yeah, not so much. Like,
You had to set up LAN parties for that kind of stuff. If you want any kind of good connectivity.
Yeah, LAN parties were mandatory. Like, that was the only reason why they existed, was because intranet sucked, or I should say, internet sucked. Intranet was like, you basically had to be in the same building and
like
on LAN.
local nets were fine because you were just using a bunch of Ethernet cables.
Yep.
Which, by the way, I think those Ethernet cables back in the 90s were like what, 100 megabyte, 10 megabyte at least.
Yeah, the Cat 5s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which were still like, even at 10 megabits per second, was still a lot faster than anything you could do over the internet. Like,
yeah, it was so bad, dude. Like, turn-based things were so there was this one game I was playing. It was called The Shadow of Acerbius and the Two Fates of Twinion. It was like the first MMO, and it was over modem, and they were charging you like, I think it was like $5 an hour or something to play. Yeah, you were that $5 an hour. If you were to break it down, was like maybe 10 actions. So you could do 10 actions for $5 because it was that slow.
can you imagine how bad it was when EverQuest first premiered in 1999? And
yeah.
like most people, like you got to remember, by the time World of Warcraft came in 2004, people were still using dial-up at that time. Like, people were still using dial-up to connect to World of Warcraft, even by 2000. I mean, hell, even nowadays, there's still people, like, there's millions of people who still use dial-up in very rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
like back when I lived just outside of the nearest village, so like way out in the boonies of my area. We had dial-up basically up until like maybe 2009.
Oh,
If
wow.
I remember right.
And then Rogers came in.
Yeah.
No bueno.
Yeah.
I could like anytime I hear the AOL dial-up noise, I just get like PTSD flashbacks.
All right.
I mean, you
all
want
right,
to talk about PTSD?
let's-
You know, you hear the. I think you might have said this or not. But the dial-up tone where you hear, do beep, beep. Yeah, that is. Oh my god!
All right.
I-
Okay. I'm sure some people have heard it, but like, we need to kind of like just like kind of set this tone. And Nix, I am so frigging sorry for triggering you right now.
Oh.
Yep, that's what I'm talking about right
The
here.
handshake. Yep. Dang.
Flashbacks and little Nick trying to look up Majora Mask fucking walkthroughs.
Welcome. You got shit.
Take me an hour
I-
just to get to one page.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin people's ears.
Yep.
You got man.
I'm gonna find. No, I don't want to hear about this bad movie. Oh boy, that noise! Time to play Battle Blitz.
You've got mail.
Oh dear God, that took me back. That took me back. Hey,
Oh,
Admiral. It's a tree-way handshake. Oh my God. But yeah, like.
Yeah, I don't miss that. I don't miss dial-up. I don't miss the crappy internet. I don't miss spending like what people don't understand is how expensive the internet was back then too.
Well, it
Like,
was
like
also
it's
because
like
you
it's
had
like we made fun of like, oh, look at all those CDs AOL sent out that gave you something hours. Those were a lifeline for some people.
Yeah, it really was.
Well, the other thing is, the internet originally had to be routed through the phone wire. So whenever you used the internet, you used your phone bill. So
And Lord forbid, like I don't know how many times like I would be trying
somebody
to play,
hops
like,
on the phone and just crashes your internet connection. Oh my
Yeah,
god!
connection lost.
So my sister Jody was like, she was like the big internet hog. Like I remember like I remember like it's like 99, like my sister being like, oh, I'm talking to someone in Korea. Like it just blew my mind that she was real time chatting with someone in Korea. That was like
안녕하세요.
like, and I remember like there was a couple times where like, Jody, get off the internet. I would literally just yank the phone cord out.
Oh.
She would get so pissed at me, but I didn't care because I needed to call something. It's like,
Man, another thing that kind of sucked back then, and it's kind of a double-edged sword because people would say it probably was for the best, but we didn't have any kind of social media until the mid 2000s. So if you wanted to catch up,
okay, I do need to push back on you there. See, like this is where like kind of like the older millennials / Gen Xers kind of come in.
Mm-hmm.
See, in the like late 90s up until like when MySpace took over, it was AIM. AIM was the social media. Like AOL Instant Messenger was
I mean like social media, not like a messaging
Not
service.
instant messengers.
Yeah, I'm
Instant
talking about
messengers
like
were around since the birth of the internet, but
I'm talking
actual
about
social media,
being
the way
able
we
to
consider it was
I'm
basically
talking about
like
being
what,
able to
2007,
meet people.
2008.
Oh, sorry.
Well, no, social media exists since the early 2000s. Yeah, stuff like LiveJournal, and people what's thing that frustrates me is people really tend to overlook MySpace because MySpace
Well,
started.
my journal was
like
not social
2004.
media; it was a blog.
Yes, it was. No,
It was a
no,
blog.
it was social.
Okay.
It was social media.
Can I?
I mean, by that definition, Facebook is a blog. Twitter is a blog. So, like,
They
and the
they
person
were
who used
blogs. That was what they originally were.
you can have for you. Okay, go ahead,
sorry.
Chris.
Well, just to finish the thought, like we didn't have social media like we do today. Back then, it didn't exist. If you wanted to reconnect with lost classmates or people that you knew but you couldn't find them, that didn't exist until MySpace.
Yeah,
prior
MySpace
to that,
was really the first. I mean, LiveJournal, you could call it
prior to that,
social media.
Prior to that, there were pay services like Classmates.com.
Mm-hmm.
And if you wanted to spend money, you would join Classmates.com to talk to your former classmates or whatever, who also were spending money. So it was a very limited niche of a niche. And then once Facebook came into the picture, bam, people that you hadn't seen in like 20 years are now, on Facebook. And you're like, oh man, he got old.
Old bullies are hitting you up saying, I'm sorry, I did all that stuff to you. Like, literally that happened to me on a couple different occasions.
Oh
like,
man.
yeah, exactly. It's like, oh man, the jock that like he used to bully me. God dang, he's gotten fat and he's hadn't had a job in 20 years. Dear God. Like,
yeah. Isn't that sad that like
the peak in high school?
Yeah, well, that was the thing, is like you looked at when you were on Facebook and you're like, you remember those kids that thought they were cool but were the troublemakers and stuff? Yeah, they're all now freaking losers. Like they're all like jobless and like, hey, that guy's fat and bald and like that guy's got like 8 illegitimate kids and that guy's in prison.
and sometimes
have...
like the assholes were the successful ones. Like sometimes you went on there and be like, oh man, this guy used to bully me. Oh great, now he's a lawyer. He's making like $6 figures Ferrari, and like he has like oh my god, he has a beautiful wife. Like it just feel even worse. Like
no.
Where's that ice cream? Where's that pint of ice cream? I don't care if I gained 300 pounds. I just need to feel better for 30 seconds.
I think we have a proper term for that, and that's called
in
high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Al Bundy effect.
You peaked.
But yeah, it was a weird experience that we will never be able to replicate, because now social media is so pervasive in our lives that people you don't even want to talk to anymore, you can still have access to real quick.
Hey, I know we haven't talked in like 30 years, but have I ever told you about this great marketing scheme that I've been totally onto? like I'm messaging everyone on here. It's really great. It's a great investment opportunity. I just need to sell 5 more people, and then I can get my gold pen.
Why do you think I use Twitter every so often for, some things, but for the most part, I have social media. I avoid using it as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Also to prevent the doom scrolling effect.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. My thing is, I've started to get into like Instagram Reels, like the TikTok effect and whatnot. And I found that like if I don't stop myself, I can just be like, wait, I was supposed to only do this for like 15 minutes. It's been 2 hours, and I've just been lying in my bed just doing this. Like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah, that's why I decided to basically structure my day in such a way that basically, in reality, at max, my social media usage is like 5 to 10 minutes, and anything else that I've got free time for, it's either a book or playing a video game or getting outside somehow.
That is smart.
Definitely a better use of the time.
Yeah.
Admiral, you are wise beyond your years.
Absolutely.
Well, they kicked me off, so.
Honestly, like I don't really use Facebook as much as I used to. I used to be really freaking addicted to Facebook, but like I've had like several crisis conscience. Like I had this really bad habit, and I still kind of do to some degree, but I've gotten better at it. Not completely eliminate this issue, but look, where I get like just these random arguments with these people, and I just get so worked up and so angry. It's like, oh, someone said something stupid, I need to tell them they're wrong, and just we're going back and forth. I'm just getting, and like, yeah, I still sometimes fall prey to it on Twitter.
Blame Vause.
Exactly, and they're just so bad. So like, I had a period where like I literally deactivated my Facebook for 4 months, and then when I reactivated it, I really don't go on Facebook. Like I go on Facebook, I scroll through for like a few minutes, maybe harvest some memes.
The internet is a purveyor of war.
Hey, Deathwith, I showed your picture earlier, just letting you know.
The internet has so many interesting forms of war. Sorry, I had to get the Team Fortress or the Team 4-star reference in just because.
Oh yeah, it's all good. But yeah, like so like I do their harvest of memes. Like I more use Messenger than anything else. Like maybe I'll like post to some boards. Twitter is really where I do most of my stuff, and I think because I'm using it more as my business. Okay, we got retroactive permission, so we're good. But yeah, I think because I'm using Twitter as a business, that does kind of like grant me a layer of abstraction to where like I'm not using it as myself. So it's like it kind of like in the back of my head where it's like, okay, you can't go too far because you're a business. You're trying to promote your stuff, So that does help a little bit. But
yeah,
one thing.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
One thing I would say that has really gotten better in more recent times is collaboration. Like that's kind of like one of the big topics is internet collaboration, because the indie scene as we know it would not have been able to exist pre-2010.
Oh God, yeah. No.
Because
Discord
let's go back to 2008, 2009 era internet, which some people might be more familiar with, but you had Skype, and then but you didn't have like the cloud services like Google Drive didn't really exist as much. You had PayPal, which was like, but it was a lot. Like even back then, it would have been doable, but it was a lot harder. Like there are so many certain things that make internet collaboration easier, like Discord, Slack, and then obviously the cloud service. Like it's so great to just upload a file to a cloud service and then send that link to like my artist, and then just pull it from that. So that way, I'm not having to send back and forth all these files. It saves so much time.
Yeah, we used to actually use FTP daemon clients. We would like instead of like Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Drive or whatever, literally you'd have to send somebody a link like in chat and be like, "Hey, download this free FTP client," and they download it, and then you'd have to give them like all your ISP information, because that's how you would transfer files. Is you would buy like a web domain and then just use the web domain to park a bunch of files.
Well, I mean, you want to talk about, technology available to indies. You can also talk about the sheer availability of game engines nowadays. I mean, back in the day, you would not find a game engine, and you were lucky if you managed to find like a copy of the original RPG Maker. Nowadays,
if we're gonna go back to like 2007, 2008, it's like, okay, Quake engine, Doom engine. Like maybe like Unity was very rudimentary back then. RPG Maker did exist, but it was like way like nowhere near like that Quake. Yeah, there was PC ones. Like I actually remember that era. It was RPG Maker 2003, RPG Maker XP. Like, so for the old heads, they know what's up.
Nowadays, you've got all kinds of engines that you can just Google and get down for free. You've got like Game Maker, you've got Godot.
Unreal.
You did have Unity until they pulled their crap, but you can basically just find a free game engine it's a dime a dozen at this point.
Well, it's like you go outside, you trip over a rock, you realize it's actually a game engine.
Yeah. Well, not only were game engines scarce back then. I mean, that's why the mod community was so great, was because like you would have to collab with people to work on an existing game engine, like Quake 3 or Unreal Tournament. But like the thing that really sucked was it was difficult. This was pre-Kazaa and pre-file sharing. You would just have to know somebody who knew somebody who had a CD or a zip file or whatever that had 3D Studio Max cracked on it or whatever. Because they ended up giving out something called Gmax, like Autodesk, who at the time had 3D Studio Max. They're like, here's a stripped down version for amateurs called Gmax. And it had all these really horrible artificial limitations applied to it. And we ended up going right back to the pirated stuff.
Yeah, and like for music creation, if we're gonna go from the 2000s, it's like you basically had basically everyone was pirating Fruity Loops, or FL Studio as the kids call it now.
Yeah, Cakewalk.
I mean, stuff like Reaper didn't come along until like mid to late 2010s. Like, I love Reaper. Reaper is great. It's a great DAW. So if you're gonna do music production, I highly recommend Reaper. It's got the Winamp model. It's great.
Yeah, and not only that, even just touching base on RPG Maker, basically its entire lineup, it goes on sale for like 80% off regularly.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and there's so many like sales on assets like Humble Bundle and whatnot.
Oh, absolutely. And so, if you want to make a game, the tools have never been more available now than they ever.
And not just like the tools of the game engine, but like Blender was a freaking game changer in terms of 3D.
Oh God, yeah.
Blender, like you can just use Blender as your 3D stuff.
Yep.
Not even touch Autodesk Maya or 3ds Max, and you can be fine. Like Blender is like full featured. Like I've done animation, I've done 3D modeling. It is honest to God, a great program.
Yeah, it's a powerhouse.
And not only that, just the skills base at this point. You want, maybe you're like me and you're wanting to get into, video game making. You have no idea what you're doing. You basically just dreamed about it and you just kind of decide one day, hey, I'm just going to hop in and do it. You can literally type in on YouTube, game engine, how to create blank, and you will have a playlist.
You just opened a big can of worms there, because online tutorials have been a big boon, because like I remember, like you want to learn how to play guitar, like pre-YouTube, it was like go to the library, get a book, or pay for lessons. Nowadays, most of the people say, go onto YouTube, and there are tons of like top quality instructional videos. Like, you want to learn how to play a song? Like, if it's even a decently popular song, I guarantee you there's at least one person online who will break it down how to play that song.
And
Hell
not
yeah.
only that, if we're gonna open up, the musical can of worms, there are programs out there that you can download where all you need is a USB to guitar jack that you can just basically plug your guitar clean into your computer, and it will teach you how to play guitar and have the tabs, and you can still hear it and
Rocksmith.
pluck off of it. Yeah,
Oh,
Rocksmith. Yeah,
God.
you can just do that, and you can
You
learn
plug it into your game console.
Yep.
exactly.
Well, dude, I mean, part of actually the major reason why I went to university was because I got tired of trying to teach myself 3D Studio Max with pirated German tutorials, and mein Deutsch ist schlecht, but like I would,
Lieben.
yeah, ach, ich kann es nicht haben. No, but so I got tired of it. I was like, and like you said, like you had to go to the library to look stuff up. Well, nobody had books at my library on how to do texture UVW unwrapping, and so I would have to learn all of that through German tutorials. And eventually, that's why I went to university. I went to my one of the few schools that I could afford, because all the in-state schools here in Cow Hampshire sucked. But I went there, and the school was so ill-equipped that this was like in the mid-90s. Like, they had no idea what the hell I was bringing to them. So I had to put on a big song and dance. I had a bunch of PCs. I had my bunch of pirated software all up on these things on a conference table, giving a spiel.
Okay, Chris, look at what Parrot had just said.
Jawohl!
You're like a walking contradiction, my friend.
No, I'm
You're
like a Skittles commercial.
You're like a contradiction and a contradiction. That's actually 16 contradictions.
Contradictionception. But yeah, I put on a big song and dance for the art department there, telling them like, hey, this is Maya, this is Alias Wavefront, this is Softimage, this is 3D Studio Max, blah 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 blah, and they're like, oh, thanks. And they like had like a meeting or whatever, and then like a week later, I looked at the new syllabi or whatever, the new class schedules, and they're like, oh, hey, look, we have a introduction to 3D animation and modeling. Awesome. Oh, it's a junior level course. You don't meet the requisites. You'll have to be here for 2 years before you could get that class. I'm like, I could teach the damn thing.
It's like I could probably teach the teacher.
Yeah, it was infuriating.
Because you know what what they probably did is they took one of the other computer science, be like, hey, you need to take this course, and like, all right, I'm probably going to be 3 lessons ahead of them, but I can do it.
I mean, when I went to college for game art and design, I went to AIC, Art Institute of Colorado. And if you don't know what that college is, consider yourself lucky, because they will charge you an arm and a leg for classes that will teach you what you're not willing to go into. And oftentimes they'll just kind of leave you hanging in classes, and then they'll charge you extra on top of that. I think AIC went bankrupt because they had so many class action lawsuits from thieving the students' money and then not teaching them anything.
Do you remember
which, by the way, it's going to be most colleges in about 5 to 10 years. That's
exactly.
Well,
so
do you guys
might as well
those...
become an autodidact for those who are interested.
Yeah. Do you remember those predatory commercials back in the day for those game development schools? Guys, I need your help immediately. I need you to tighten up the graphics on level 3, and I need you to QA test blah blah. And like these guys are just playing with game controllers, and they're like, and mom said we would get anywhere playing video games. And it was such a bad joke that those schools were so predatory and worthless that when I was in the industry, one of my bosses would actually say, as a joke, like when we were like working on levels or whatever, he's like, yeah, I'm going to need you to tighten the graphics up on level 3. Oh, man.
I would say when it comes to game design, like colleges are still having trouble catching up, because I actually went to school into college in the 2010s, and I did the animation program, and then I graduated, and I went to 2 different colleges. I was scoping them out. One was the University of Michigan, which is a world-class college. Like, it is like one of the best colleges in the world. And when I was doing, like I just said, I want to do game design. What their solution was, oh, we have an art program where we'll come up with something, and then that'll be your program. University of Michigan, world-class college. Its hospital is consistently ranked as one of the top 10 hospitals in the world. That was their solution.
Yeah, and the other thing about the
I got a little, and so the other one I went to was Eastern Michigan, which was smaller college, kind of thing. They actually had one, like simulation animation game design program. The problem I have with a lot of these university level game design courses, because I wanted to do environmental art. I wanted to be the guy to make the trees, the stop signs, because like I kind of enjoyed that, blah blah blah. I'm sure Chris would be like, no, you do not want to do that. I guarantee you, he's holding back stuff right now. But because I suck at drawing, I suck at 2D drawing, and they kept you gotta take and I kept asking them, why do I gotta take these drawing classes when I just want to do 3D? Oh, we want you to be well-rounded.
Yeah, that's
Chris.
what your 12 years of school is for. Like the 12 years of was it elementary school and high school and middle school? You don't need to be well-rounded in university. You're past that point. That's all just money. They're just trying to steal money from you.
Yeah. I do have to say this though. So when I was doing the orientation, I eventually did decide to go to Eastern. Ended up not going, but like I did their introduction, their orientation, and we were doing our class schedules. And this was like I'd say 2016-ish. I had a required diversity course.
Oh,
welcome to college.
And so like there was this black lady who was helping me through this, and she's like, "Oh, you need to take your diversity course." I literally said to her, "Oh, I think I'll hold that off till later." Like nothing wrong with that statement. Like literally, I didn't insult her to her face. I didn't say anything wrong about it. I literally just said, and she was like, "Okay." Like she rolled her eyes, disdain. Like you could already tell she had me pegged. Oh, he's one of those people. And all I said was, "Oh, I think I'll hold it off till later." Like, oh yeah, I did not end up going to Eastern Michigan University.
Dude, yeah, that whole. Oh, sorry.
My bad. But I'll just finish this up real quick, and then hopefully we can just jump to you real quick. But essentially, the one thing that basically convinced me that college was going to be no good was I went in specifically for game writing. And not only did the college eventually get around to tell me that they don't offer a game writing course, which I would think is important, they told me to my face, and I quote, "Oh, you don't want to go into that kind of course. Nobody gives a shit about writing and gaming. It's worthless and you'll never make money."
I mean, from Chris. Well, Chris. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but like, from a game industry perspective, were they not wrong? Like when it comes to
yeah, dude, like if you're trying to get into the gaming industry, don't go in for game design, don't go in for game writing, don't go in for story or like any of that stuff. Go in as an engineer. Even if you want to be a game designer, have engineering skills under your belt. Because everybody has a million ideas. Everybody has their great ideas for a game. Blah, 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 blah. Nobody gives a shit. You're not there to make your game. You're there to make their game.
This is why I ultimately gave up on trying to pursue like game design as a career. Is because I saw how many people were getting chewed up and spit out. I saw how toxic the industry is. I was like, I don't really want any of that. And like, as I was kind of making that decision, because I like the comics I had pursuing as early as like 2008 and whatnot. I got some stories about like pursuing comic in 2008, but we'll get to that. Like my comics were starting to, like the company I was with Roy Starburst, so I just kind of jumped into comics, and that's kind of led me to where I am now. But like, you want to hear some crazy stories? So yeah, I first started doing my first feelers into the comic book world in like 2008-ish. And let me tell you, the world of indie comics in 2008 is completely different to what it is now. Like if you wanted to find jobs, you went on a site called Digital Webbing. Like so some old heads might recognize that site. Like they had like a classified for job talent. You know, and it's like, yeah, the collaboration was a lot different. You emailed people files. It was, oh my god, it was. Yeah,
Doesn't sound fun.
no, I actually still have some test drawings someone did in 2008 for Project Access. I still have those on my hard drive. They're like really small files, but like, yeah. Oh my god.
Dude, I remember when I was in university and the communist rot was first like setting in, and I went in. It was I think it was freshman English or whatever, first year English or college English or whatever, and our teacher was this like lesbian who like decided to like turn the entire class into feminism and womenism, and there is a difference. And we had to like, I bought books like Uncle Tom's Cabin and The Color Purple, and we're reading all of this stuff, and like Alice Walker, who's explaining how womenism is the distinction of feminism, where not only are you screwed over by men like in feminism, but you're also screwed over by white people because you're black. So you've got like a double victim here. And we're sitting there.
Oh, you mean the foundational thoughts of intersectionality?
Yeah, this was the genesis of it. Like we're sitting there, and I just remember like this one guy. He's like, we're talking. She's going over her stuff or whatever. That she gives us our stupid work, and of course I'm just doing it because I need the grade. I don't give a shit about this stuff. Mm-hmm. And this one guy he gets up. He's like, "Yep, I think I have more important things to do right now. Like go take a shit." Just laughed. And like I remember reiterating, like this is how pronounced the brainwashing is in these universities. Because I remember reiterating something about how like some victimology crap that we were taught in that class about like how like black violence is excusable because these people were oppressed or whatever.
It's the language of the oppressed. When like how many black businesses were ruined in 2020? Like
but this
how
was
many
like,
videos did we see of like black people literally crying, saying why, as they literally just destroyed their shop around them?
Well, like the thing is like this was.
I guarantee you, those people who your businesses ruined, I guarantee you, they're not voting Democrat next election.
I don't think they're. Well, it doesn't matter. I think they're voting. They're going to vote regardless of them voting. But yeah, like what was that? What was I saying? Yeah. So I had reiterated the victimology thing or whatever, and I had a buddy like straighten me out. Like this kid that like he was a rogue engineer. This kid like dropped out of high school. He's total hyperactive. The kid's a freaking genius though. And I was talking about it, and he's like, dude, listen to the crap you are saying. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? He's like, dude, you just gave excuses for people to commit crimes. You know how stupid that sounds? I'm like, yeah, they kind of.
So
like,
basically,
dude, that class is brainwashing you.
This is what he did to you verbally.
Yeah, and honestly, I got to thank him for it because
he gave you a verbal pimp slap.
Yeah, he always said it straight. He always like so that was when kind of like the first eye-opening experience where I was like, wow, maybe he's you know what I mean? Like he's never been like this before. So clearly there's something going on. And I started noticing it in other classes too, where they're like, like we're gonna change Christopher Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. Can you sign this petition? I'm like, why? Are you racist? No, but I don't know.
I love that day just simply because it's just fun, like watching them freak out once a year.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just all these stupid things, and it's like it's gotten so much worse in the 30 years since then.
Here's the funny thing, Chris. You literally have the card that if they ask you, are you being racist? It's like, you know, you have the card that you can just pull right back on them because you know you're Korean and a Jew. It's
What's
like,
your problem, Guilo?
Let's be honest. That is not a barrier to them anymore. Like look up in
No, it
Canada, like they have
yeah,
the
no,
protests.
it's not a barrier
teacher
to them
protests.
anymore.
Like they're calling it, oh, it's a bunch of white supremacy. It's like that the protest is made of like 80% Muslims. Like they are not white, you know.
No.
But it's.
I mean, honestly, if I
it's literally they've called black people white supremacists.
Yeah, the blackface of white supremacy.
Actually, it's
there.
funny that you mentioned that because I'm part black, and the things that I've had, you know, black people tell me would get this show pulled off of the internet in a heartbeat, which is why I won't say it.
Yeah, man.
Trust me, I'm sure we've all seen the Nick Cannon interview.
Well, it just sucks where there's this like this culture has settled in place of like that celebrates failure, violence, theft, and stupidity.
I don't know. Just like it's here, but I've been seeing like the big pushback for it. You know, like obviously like the truckers protest. Like I would say the truckers protest is a modern day Occupy Wall Street because like you saw how much that scared the Canadian government.
Oh yeah, they called it a Nazi caravan.
Of course. And the thing is, it's gotten to the point where like not like they're literally taking all the oomph out of that word.
Yeah, it used to be that if you called somebody a Nazi, it not only had power, it had meaning behind it. Like, oh, that guy's a Nazi. You really don't want to deal with him. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, whoa. This guy's got to be really messed up. Nowadays you hear, oh, that guy's a Nazi. You really shouldn't be. It's like, oh, what do you mean?
I get what you're saying about Mexicans, but their food is so good, I might give it a pass. I'm sorry. I love Mexican food. I love Mexican food. So it's like, your food's really good and your women look really good. So pass.
Well, now it's just American food because the ethnicity change.
Yeah.
that truck thing, the protest, it really did actually have Justin Trudeau shaking his boot. You could tell.
Yeah. Oh, I just realized
that. Oh, sorry.
I just realized I have two Canadians in this.
Yeah, 2 Canadians, 2 Americans.
One of whom is
we have equality.
Apparently, I am distantly related to Trudeau.
Oh, damn! So
I can't confirm it.
You're Cuban?
Oh my God, Chris! I was literally about to make that joke. How dare you?
I said distantly. I can't confirm it though. But
I'm sorry, but I love Whackness. I actually love Mexican people because they're like base as hell. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the libs made a big mistake when they tried to replace their voters with Latinos because Latinos
absolutely.
are the most conservative people I know.
Dude, Latinos are like some seriously based people. I love them to death.
Well, it's because they're
cool.
family.
It's
they have
like-
a culture
it's like-
around family.
Okay, I would say if we're gonna do this, I'd say the libs make two things. Is going after the Mexicans, which also trying to push the pedo shit. Like, like that is a thing that is really losing them favor so much. Even the normal person is not going to tolerate that. Like, I'm actually getting angry. Like, as much as how much they're trying to push it, like this is what's causing the cracks. Is them really just trying to push it, and like 99% of the people are not going to put. Like, you ask 90% of people, what is a good pedo? A dead pedo.
Penicillin, 12 gauge.
Yep.
I got this Remington filled to the brim with pure grade pedo buckshot.
Yeah.
Cheeto says that you can't let God do all the work.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
thank you, Jocko Graham.
Did you guys ever see the videos of the trucker stuff where like they had like the Royal Canadian Mounties trample this elderly woman with their horses? And then my favorite part was when Trudeau was over in Europe, and I can't remember which country called out his shit, and they're just like, you are a tyrannical despot, like your country isn't. You're worse than the Soviet Union.
Like, at least the UK has the good graces to hide it under a sheen of Britishness. Canada has no sheen.
Yeah, go to the
Can
west coast
confirm.
of Canada.
Well,
Yeah.
it's because Canada was the original modern world war criminal. When Canadians start saying, "I'm about to stop saying sorry," that's when you decide, okay, they're about to go on a war path. Let's find a way where they cause the most damage to the worst people on planet Earth.
Also, I have no patience for when a Canadian tries to call out Americans' treatment of Native Americans. Which, by the way, American treatment is bad. I'm not denying that. But Canada has its own atrocities that is still to this day with Native people. So Canada has just as little right to talk about to call people out as Americanized.
Well, what
True.
blows my mind though is the whole guilt over that, like over the indigenous peoples of these lands. They lost. Civilizations aren't built by nice people. Every one of these groups, if you dig deep enough, you will find annihilated, genocided people that aren't even given the privilege to be alive to have their descendants bitch and complain about how
I
terrible
get
things
that.
are.
But atrocities and genocide are still atrocities and genocide.
Oh yeah, I'm not excusing them. I'm just saying that no one group is worse than the other. Like
As a historian, I can completely and utterly confirm.
How many
that
Africans sold their fellow Africans into slavery?
yeah. Well, how many Native American tribes were annihilated by other Native American tribes?
Yeah.
You know that
Whoa,
there were groups in Mexico that actually teamed up with the Spaniards when, conquistadores, when they invaded the Yucatan Peninsula. They teamed up with the Spaniards because they were the lesser of the evils, because the Aztecs were that much of a bastard. They were this major empire just effing, just killing everyone, basically.
But modern education says that white people are the source of all evil.
Yeah, exactly. That's just commie talk.
Yeah. Well, as a historian, I can confirm, and I won't go on a long spiel, but every single people's, every single nation, every single country has its own atrocities and genocides.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say,
doesn't make them less worse. It does not make them less worse. It just means that we have no right to point the finger and say, you are definitively the most evil person or the most evil group on the planet. We all have done it.
To bring things back to like how things are better now, like we're gonna talk about like even like 90s, 2000s, like things have progressed in terms of like race relations, how we treat queer people and whatnot. Like things have progressed a lot. Like also from a person who has mental health issues, I'm just gonna tell you, like, because I was dealing with a lot of mental health stuff in the 90s, like things have progressed so much in the 90s, since the 90s. And the 90s is really when they started taking mental health seriously. Like even as far back as the 80s, like even like before the 90s, mental health was like, oh, let's just hide it, let's just shove it under
Don't talk about it.
Exactly. It wasn't until the 90s we actually started to have the conversation. There's still a lot more work we got to do in terms of mental health, but it is so much better than it was in the 90s, or even as in like the 80s. Like
Well,
remember, most of like the big like insane asylums that we all like talk about, they didn't start closing down until the 90s.
Well, I mean, like my sister works in mental health. She's a controller, but like the thing that bothers me about modern mental health stuff is that it's become this trend to be like mentally ill, where I totally agree that like you shouldn't shove people under the carpet or hide them away if they've got mental illness. But at the same time, we've kind of pushed this trend now where it's like, instead of just being like, look, these people have problems and they need help, it's turned into, let's celebrate this. You know what I mean? I'm neurodivergent. I have 17 genders. I have 36 personalities. I have this. And it's like, yeah, that could exist. And I'm not going to attempt, like to say you're just doing that for attention, but like you're creating a scenario where there's now more noise to signal.
See, the problem is mental health for like the past 20, 30 years. And I've been in the mental health system regularly since I was a kid. So like I've seen this like up close and personal. I've been to mental hospitals both as a child and as an adult, so I'm intimately familiar with like the at least in American style mental health. Mental health pushes a status of victimhood. Is you suffer from this. Like this is why I say I don't suffer from autism. I don't suffer from bipolar. I have it. You know, it's like that one word choice changes the whole entire conversation. Okay. So instead of it being me being victimized by my mental illness, and this is this way the way I choose to look at it, is it's something that I have to deal with. Okay. Creates a more positive kind of thing. Versus like with mental health, it's more of a chain that they use to kind of pull you down. It's more like, oh, we've got to like live with it, blah blah blah. It's just like they keep trying, like mental health is trying to push you into like this certain lifestyle where you're dependent on the system. Like they want you to be independent to a point.
Yeah, they want a lifelong customer.
Pretty much, you know.
And I will say, in some places, the pendulum has swung to the, let's celebrate the fact that I have mental illness. And in other places, like in the empty quarter where I'm located, it's still very much that old world. You don't talk about it.
These two extremes.
That's the other side of the coin is for especially for people with mental health issues. Like I don't know how many times. Like I remember I got intake. I got hired at a Taco Bell job, and as part of my intake, it's like, do you have any mental health stuff? Do you need reasonable accommodations? And I told them right then and there, as I was like, at the orientation, I said, I have autism, I have bipolar. I need people to be like this, that. Basically, just be more patient, be more direct with your communication. You know, easy stuff. It's not like I was asking them to be like, "Oh, I need you to build me a bridge to my house so I could fly over." Blah. No, just talk to me in a different manner. You know, and then like 4 months later, one of my managers, I was trying to talk to me like, they're trying to talk. It's like, it's kind of hard for the middle. It's like, I don't care. Just do your job. You know, whatever. And it's just, that was kind of eye-opening for me. Because it's like they did all this whole song and dance when I got hired about respecting mental illnesses. But when it came down to brass tacks, they couldn't give a shit.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other part and parcel of that, and, we kind of touched upon it, was the treatment at the original asylums. Because they were privately funded. Most of them were privately funded. And because of the...
Well, yeah, the rich people needed a place to dump their lives when they mouthed off.
Yeah. Because of the stigma back in the day, if you had anything that was considered, quote unquote, out of the ordinary, you threw them in there, and they were so overfull and understaffed and underfunded, they basically became hellscapes.
I mean, look at Rosemary Kennedy. Like, has anyone studied the case of Rosemary Kennedy?
Oh, absolutely.
By modern standards, she was basically bipolar, maybe had BPD. Like, she could have been easily treated today.
Yeah.
But her father was an ambitious man. He wanted his, so he got her a lobotomy, and it basically ruined her life. And it's a tragedy because, like, someone like Rosemary Kennedy, we look at her through a modern lens, and she could have been easily treated.
And now we're having the opposite tragedy where a lot of the mentally ill, it usually don't get treated. They don't get
it gets celebrated. The mental illness gets celebrated,
or they end up on the street. Like
I can
tell you, 70% of the homeless in Denver are mentally ill. They need mental help.
Yeah, like how we saw that explosion of like the homelessness in 2000s. That is directly correlated to the closure of all these both privately and state-run hospitals. Because like all the hospitals started closing in like the 90s and 2000s. And where do these people go? The streets.
Yep.
And
because
these people,
they went from the hospital to the jail.
I'm trying to talk. I'm trying to talk. One person at a time, please.
So am I.
Nope.
You kind of talked over me, so I'm going to continue. So, like, you have these people who, they came from they came from the street, and like they have these mental health problems. They're not equipped to it. Of course, like they're going to have problems integrating.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Sharon, go ahead.
Yeah, it was what I said was just a little bit of a correction. They didn't go straight from the asylum to the street. What ended up happening was they closed the asylum. They moved all the mentally ill into the prisons and the jail system. And when they said, "Hey, we can't have these be so overcrowded," they just turned most of them loose on the street. So you're mostly right. There was just a step in the middle that was gone. That was all.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, it's again coming from somebody that works in that field. It's or I should say, it's related to, because like yeah, how going back to what I said, I went in for school to because I got tired of learning 3D Studio Max from pirated German tutorials. Yeah, well, I came through with psychology as a degree. That was my study. So yeah, but yeah, a lot of it is that mental illness isn't treated the way that other healthcare is treated, and as a result, it doesn't get the financial or I should say the insurance backing that these other. It's kind of like the way they differentiate vision and dental from health. It's like, guys, these are all like, this is a composite of your body. Like your mind is just as much of a physical part of your physiology as your heart or your leg or your eyes or whatever, but for some reason they split it all up, and they don't fund
more.
Well, they don't fund. They're like, again, the state funds these nonprofits, mental health facilities, but they don't give them shit for money. Like they're basically like, we're not treating them as healthcare facilities or management or ongoing care. We're treating them as pharmaceutical dispensaries. Like you go in and get drugged up.
We gave you enough money to do a pretty building, so I can get my kickbacks from the construction company.
Yep.
But beyond that, you're on your own. Oh, please push these bills.
Yeah, exactly. Big Pharma will come in and they'll be like, oh, you've got bipolar people that are blah, blah, blah. Here's some lithium from GlaxoSmithKline or whatever, prescribe that shit, and it's like, but the person needs counseling. Yeah, exactly. Like they don't just give you that and say, have fun, go, like you need to be monitored. You need to have counseling. You need to have people watching out for you.
All right. I'm glad I have my pills right here. I can literally show you. All right. This is what I take every day.
Ouch. Damn, dude.
That's 4 lithium pills and then 1 trazodone.
Woo.
I take see here.
And Chris, as somebody who also
900 milligrams of lithium, and then 300 milligrams of trazodone every day.
That's some good shit, man.
and then if you see me now, just like, this is me medicated.
But as somebody who also has family who is in the health industry,
mm-hmm.
Maybe not necessarily directly in the mental health industry, but just health in general.
Mm-hmm.
I can definitely say for a fact that there is a what's the word I'm looking for? A focus on treatment rather than cures.
Well, they wait until there's a crisis. Like you remember that show House? Like that show House where he's like a diagnostician. That's not a real position. There's no such thing as a diagnostician. Nobody gives a shit about trying to figure out what's wrong with you. They're just going to throw drugs at you, and if you die in the process, then you're dead.
Who cares?
Yeah, and that's why, like, every time my psychologist is like, oh, should we get you on another drug? I'm like, no, I don't want to do that, because what they're going to do is they're just going to throw random things at me.
Yep.
Like, oh, we need to dial it in.
Yeah.
Like we need to like figure out what works. Meanwhile, I'm suffering. I'm going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I may end up in a mental hospital, ruin my friggin' life because this doctor is like just throwing darts at a board. Be like,
and you can't cold turkey it.
No.
Yeah, but it's like, completely inhumane.
Yeah, it's a focus on treating and guesswork rather than finding what works and doing the most good. They don't care, because so long as you keep coming back in, that's where their profit margin is.
Well, that's why that movie Joker was so poignant. Because
absolutely.
When Joker was talking to his counselor, and she didn't give a shit about him, and she was basically doing that. Do I need to refill this? You know, do I need to like not actually counseling him? Because that is a good part of mental health treatment, is that counseling component. That you have somebody to talk to, and if they don't give a shit about you, got nobody.
And that's probably kind of my biggest problem is, should I be in therapy? Probably. But like my problem is all the therapists, like they either just don't respond, don't give me anything. They give crap advice, or even on the very rare occasions where I do find a good therapist, 6 months later they find a better job and they're gone. Now, did they do this to spite me? No. Like, I don't believe they did it. It was nothing. I firmly believe, like, those individual therapists, that it was not personal. They didn't do it. It's just the nature of the beast. I've had this happen like 3 or 4 times where, like, I find a good one that, like, I actually connect with, because, like, I find a therapist, I need at least 3 months to just kind of get used to them and kind of just get into a rhythm. And, like, by the time things are actually starting to get good and, like, okay, I'm actually kind of making progress, they find that, like, they get a job offer for a better job. Am I mad at them for leaving? No, I'm mad at the situation.
Yep.
You know, and if this happens so many times, and where it's like, oh, we'll recommend you someone, and that person they recommended me is just complete and utter garbage.
Or you start again from square one, where
every time, and it's frustrating. Like I had a therapist one time where, like, he just, like, eat, like, I do telehealth, he just literally eat on camera, or like,
oh god damn,
oh my god.
Well, like, here's the thing: is the counseling is very like is akin to the same thing as elder care. Like, again, if you treat mental health as a physiological health condition that needs treatment, it's the same thing with how you're treating the elder care patients. Where, imagine if you've got somebody that's, like, you've got a nurse or whatever, you've got somebody that's checking in on somebody that's trying to remain, autonomous for, until they finally die. I mean, it's a terrible way of saying it, but, like, it would suck if a year or so into that care, all of a sudden you get a new nurse to come in and check on you that isn't familiar with anything that you've already, that, like, they don't know your house. They don't know that you don't like people knocking on your back door, or, all these things. And, like, I've read case studies of a wellness check-in that actually turned into death by cop, because an elderly guy who had survived World War II didn't like people knocking on his back door, and the nurse that checked in with him all the time changed jobs and would always knock on, like, the side door or whatever. And as a result, when the nurse kept knocking on the new nurse kept knocking on the back door, the guy didn't answer. So then she got a wellness check with police, where law enforcement showed up, and the guy stuck a gun and shot out the window and then got killed by the cops. And that's elder care, but there's a very similar, like, you see how it bleeds into mental health. Like, the guy clearly had post-traumatic stress disorder from the war, and it's like that was brought on by, like, dementia and by other geriatric conditions.
I mean, you would think the nurse would use her brain. Like, he's a nurse, he's supposed to be smart. Be like, hey, why don't I try calling him, or why don't I try another door, or even the organization should have in his file. Be like, yeah, this is just as much the nurse for not having the situation awareness. Be like, let's try another door. Let's do literally anything else.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem with our oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead first. I'll finish up with what I got.
Right. Yeah, that's another big problem with our healthcare, is that the left hand doesn't talk to the right hand. So there is no universal records. There is no, like, oh, this guy, like the notes that you're just saying. Well, that's the thing. Well, HIPAA is a data records protection system, where it's basically a series of things in place where the data that's retained needs to conform to these this criteria, like, needs to be saved for 7 years, needs to be filed away. But basically, there is no universal, like, database of your medical records. Like, if you changed hospitals, or if you changed doctors, even say that nurse did put in those notes, like, elderly patient, post-traumatic stress disorder, do not use back door, be sure to phone before appointment, or whatever. She could have totally put that in the notes, but the new nurse is either not privy to those notes or had to do legwork that she wasn't even aware she needed to do to get those notes, because it is such a mess back there, like the back end of the medical health care information. I don't know how any of these hospitals talk to one another at all, like if they do, because if you've ever requested a transfer of your hospital records from one hospital to another, I've had to do that multiple times when I lived in California and lived in Japan and lived in New England. Yeah, they lose them. You literally have to fill out everything again. You have to give your relative history of illness and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, do you have any allergies?" "Yes, I said I have an allergy of penicillin, and I've said that for the last 15 years."
Oh, you too?
Yeah. Like we need a better healthcare system that incorporates mental illness and allows the left to talk to the right.
Well, the what I would consider to be kind of like the main root of the major problem with the healthcare industry is it's depersonalized. All they see you as is a number. And if they don't see you as a number and they do at least remember your name, they still see you as a dollar sign.
Oh yeah.
That's it. That's all that's all they see you as, because as somebody who's had a parent who's had type 1 diabetes her entire life.
Oof.
Yeah, I can tell you with all certainty, with all the knowledge in the world, having to watch this, they didn't care one mite about her. She had to fight and scream and shout and throw crap.
Oh yeah, you
for
had
them
to
to
self
care.
advocacy.
And even after all of that, oftentimes that she'd be patient number 79, patient number 3672. You know, something like that, where they didn't even call her by her name. She was just a number. She was a patient, or in better terms, an inmate.
What's most hilarious is we often like prescribe. I can't believe I use that wordage. The impersonalness to doctors, and that is often the case. Like we tend to there's kind of been a bit of pushback for this now, but like we tend to like elevate nurses. But like I've gone on, like I've dated nurses, and like they'll tell you, "Oh, we are horrible people," you know, and I've had multiple nurses that I've dated, like literally say that to me straight up, because like I go and be like, "Oh yeah, nurses are awesome," blah blah blah. Like no, shut the f up with that. We are horrible. Like, and she literally said, "We are horrible people." Like, even she was admitting, that kind of stuff. And I've heard stories of how terrible nurses can be, and I've met some great ones, but yeah, we need to stop putting nurses on pedestal. They're human, just like everyone else.
Exactly.
Okay.
Sorry, I was gonna say I have a story actually. So, you might not know this about me, but I actually have really bad anger issues. They were even worse as a kid.
Oh damn.
We have a real life Sundari.
Like I actually had to be. They actually confined me for about 6 weeks to the Children's Hospital, the mental wing, where I was basically surrounded by, I don't want to say it because I'm afraid, but like kids. And one of the things they tried before the hospital, or maybe it was after, I can't remember. Either way, one of the things they tried to help me with my anger issues were, I don't remember the name of them, but a bunch of pills that essentially turned me into a zombie.
Oof.
Like,
well, that's the goal.
I was exhausted
Benzos.
all day. I was never hungry during the day until my pills wore off at about midnight, and I just become ravenous. I was not emotionally there. I wasn't very mentally there. And my grandmother, because I've been living with her since I was a baby up until her death in 2012, was absolutely furious at the doctor for putting me on them. And not it's even just mentioning it first, hey, this could happen.
Yeah.
And his suggestion was different pills. And now, as an adult with issues in depression, that can get very severe. I'm terrified of going now to a doctor and being like, "Hey, I have issues with my mental health," and them just being like, "Well, here's some pills," because I don't want to numb the pain like that. The way I was, even just for those anger issues, it scared me. It scared my grandmother, scared anyone who actually knew me, because it wasn't me.
Yeah,
Damn.
like you see that a lot in like today's society, where there's a fear of feeling. Like people are so afraid to feel. People are afraid to just kind of engage the empathetic side of their brain.
They just
Like,
want
you
to
see
be
it-
numb.
Yeah, and it's like you see, like it's we live in a society where a gift from the Japanese arm of McDonald's depicting this like yeah, I'm going there.
Literally.
That is enough to send people into tirades.
It's an
Yeah.
adorable family eating at McDonald's is enough to piss people off.
But also, like, I have really bad anxiety too, and I don't want to take meds for that either. And my brother's ex, she smokes pot. Basically, it's completely legal here in Canada. Don't worry, guys.
I mean, it's
Completely legal.
It's legal here in Michigan, so you're good.
But
Yeah, it's legal here in Denver too. So
I mean, Colorado was the originator, but like,
yeah,
also I have the McDonald's thing on the screen.
she had really bad anxiety too, amongst a plethora of other mental issues that I can't even name. I love her though. She gave me 2 adorable little nieces, so she's okay. But she smoked pot, and her excuse was that she had really bad anxiety and she didn't want to take pills, but she also didn't want to deal with the anxiety. I have seen the ways that pot can screw a person up too. I've seen the way that medication can screw a person up, and every day is basically living hell with for me, because I'm just constantly worried over everything under the sun. But I'd rather go through that than lose my ability to just be myself and feel my emotions as they come.
Well, here's a amateur psychologist. Some advice for that. Like, medication helps, but it isn't the cure.
I really need to get Master TDS on here. I really need to do that.
Well,
I mean,
if
when you're
you,
done, Chris, I'll have a thought too. So go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I mean, if you as you know, there's a lot of diagnoses going around about like something called generalized anxiety disorder, which is actually a component of I believe it actually is a subcomponent of bipolar. Where
I mean, I remember back in the 2000s there was a disorder called oppositional defiant disorder, aka kid won't listen to me, please shove some pills down their throat.
Oh yeah, like, but like one of the things that I remember reading about that helps when medication is either off the table or isn't working, because there's a lot of times where they'll just try various forms of medication and none of it works. A lot of it is that internal psychology that you're going to need to help. It's one of those things where it's like, if the drugs aren't helping, then the only thing left is you got to help yourself. And when anxiety,
that should have been the first thing to begin with. Like,
yeah, but I mean, it's the easy thing to go for the the external chemicals first. But like, this is where counseling comes in, where you've got somebody that's trained, that have seen, that talks you down from an anxiety attack. When you start getting the heart palpitations and the sweating brow, and you're thinking about things that, like, you're living in the future, essentially, the what ifs or whatever. You have to at least, or at least, again, this is from what I've been reading, part of that exercise is to understand that there are things out of your control, that you have, there's things in life that you have no control over, and you're not getting out of life alive anyways. You're going to die. Like, regardless, it's an inevitability.
Life sucks, then you die.
But it's an inevitability, so you shouldn't be stressing over an inevitability. And at the same time, you should be living in the present. You're cheating yourself out of your present life because you're too busy living in the future of the what ifs. And
one thing that I always say is, do not live in fear of death. live in spite of it. For in the end, death comes for us all.
Yeah, it's an inevitability, and there are people that are absolutely terrified of dying and all this stuff. And it's like, you shouldn't be afraid of death. You should be afraid of the agony before the death.
Mhm.
And most of that agony is self-created. And what I mean by that is, sure, there's the physicality of all that stuff, but there's also the mental. It's almost like your mental state is defeating you before you even got a chance to get on the battlefield. And as a result, you're enervated. You're completely depleted of what makes life worth living before you even get a chance, because you're too afraid to live it. Like I'm like my dad. Like, he's got an aversion disorder where he doesn't want to deal with anxiety either. So rather than understanding that there's anxiety and adopting the coping mechanisms that you would get through professional counseling, or just that understanding that you can't control everything and that shit will happen. Don't worry about it. It's only temporary. Things will always get better. Even if you think it's the worst thing in the world, you're still going to get through it. But like, his thing is that he just won't go anywhere. He just won't do anything. And he's become like what they say in Japan, the hikikomori. He just stays in his house. I don't need to go anywhere.
Because here's the thing about life and death. It is often very random and chaotic. Okay, like death can come at literally any second. Like a lightning bolt could come crashing through and hit me in the head.
Yeah, you could have
like literally, you get into a car, you turn your car on, for some random reason, your car explodes. Like literally, death can come at any second. Like, this is why I always say, don't live in fear of death, live in spite of it, because death can, like, it doesn't matter how much you worry about death, how much you prepare, like, you could always die, like literally, because you're set it, like, because you don't go out of your house, XYZ, heart attack and die. There's so many different reasons. Live your life to the fullest, live the best life you can, do what you can.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're talking about, just like worrying about stuff and whatnot. Because like, I'm dealing with some issues in my life. I'm not going to go into the details, but like, I've kind of reached a point where it's like, I've literally done everything I can to work on these issues. I got a thing coming up, next month that's what I can deal with it. But until then, there is absolutely nothing I can do. I've done everything I can so far, but until then, there's nothing I can do. So it's giving me anxiety, but it's to be like, you've done everything you can. Literally, the best thing you can do is just relax till then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No. It's all you. I spoke a lot.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So, as a philosophical Stoic, there's a particular process that I like to go through when it comes to this, and it's one of the best things I've had since I refuse to kind of go through the mental health industry, which is to experience the emotion that you're feeling, understand it, understand where it comes from, and then handle it as best as you can. Because not necessarily to control it, not necessarily to bottle it up or to cage it away, but a lot of times in life, you can't always be able to freak out or weep openly or scream at the heavens. Lord knows there have been many a time in my life where I wish I could. Mm-hmm. But the best thing that I've found to do is to experience the emotion, understand where it comes from. If I need to put it aside for the time being, put it aside. If I need to express it and I have the ability and time to do so, feel free to express it. But, be able to handle it as best as you can in as healthy of a way as you can, instead of just self-destructing.
Yeah, and there needs to be that inner dialogue of argument, because that anxiety that's coming through you is your subconscious telling you, but what if this happens? Like, what if you get in your car and you got to go drive somewhere and like you're going to get into a car accident? Do you have the money to cover it? And all that stuff. You need to argue with that and be like, shut the fuck.
and sometimes that also comes with
too many people suppress themselves. Like, they suppress part of themselves. And I think that like that's really throughout history has kind of been a part of it. Like the whole like person who's gay, and they suppress that, and it's like it reacts in different tendencies. And I think it comes with emotions. And Men in particular. We as men, we've been taught for so long, men don't cry, boys don't cry, and all that stuff. And we as men are not really taught to handle our emotions as well as women do. Now, I'm not saying like men to become like blabbermouths, like chained to their emotions, but no, we need to learn to acknowledge them and work with them. It's kind of like what trying to build off what Sharon was saying.
Yeah, and that's kind of why, as far as everybody's like, oh, why are you a stoic? Why are you so stone cold? I'm not stone cold. I'm just controlled. I'm measured. I experience everything that I feel. I don't shut it down. It's just I understand that there's a time and a place for everything. Because honestly, if you're going to freak out at every little thing, you're not going to function. And there are places and there are times that call for you to be able to express openly what it is you're feeling. And there are points and times where mourning has to come a little bit later down the line because there's stuff you have to address that's more important in the here and now. And that's the whole point of Stoicism. It's not to shut yourself down, to wall yourself up and to never feel again. It's just to have that inner dialogue with yourself of, okay, this is what I'm feeling. This is where it's coming from. Is this a point in time where I can express it, or do I need to handle it at a later time where it's more appropriate?
Yeah.
That's my basic understanding of it, at least.
Yeah, that's definitely a valid approach thing. I kind of do things a little bit differently. Like I can be more outwardly expressive with my emotions. But honestly, neither of our approaches are bad, honestly.
I mean, everybody's going to have, different mechanisms to handle what it is they're experiencing. For me, it was partly because of, my upbringing and partly just because of how my brain is wired. Stoicism just worked for me. I'm not going to say it's going to work for everybody, but it is a possibility of, hey, this might be a way that you can handle yourself.
Yeah, it's just for me, it doesn't work for me because I'm too outwardly expressive with things. And I know for a fact that like Stoicism is just not something that's in the cards for me. So I don't go down that path. I'm more of a work with your emotions kind of thing. But hey, to each their own.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everybody's different. Everybody's going to handle their emotions and their thoughts in all different ways. You can't have a one size fits all solution for any given problem. It's all individual, and you have to learn it little by little.
Yeah.
Because when I first was practicing Stoicism, I made that mistake that I should not feel. I should be the brick wall. I don't need to feel. Emotions are weakness. I made that mistake. And then eventually, once I had the emotional maturity to redress that and say, no, emotions are normal. They're part of who I am. I need to address them. I just need to be more measured about it, because it was either to do that or to just explode in any given emotion at any given time. It was just not healthy.
The problem with suppression is it also always leads to regression. It's like let's say you got a pot of boiling water and you try and put a lid on it. Eventually, the pressure is going to build up, and it's going to explode, and it's just going to be all make a mess. And that's a problem when you suppress anything, whether emotions, feelings, or literally anything. That's a problem that a lot of men had throughout history. Is they try to suppress their emotions. And it would always come boiling up with like rage, or they try to cover it up with alcoholism. I'd say it's really only the past 25 years that we've actually made strides to improve that.
Yeah, I agree with. I'll agree with that. Yeah.
Because like you remember the old joke of like, oh, the gay crusading politician getting caught with a gay prostitute, or the modern version of it is male feminists getting caught abusing women, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
The Joss Whedons of the world.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one thing that I can definitely agree upon. Just on the whole, on the level, you can't suppress yourself. If you try and hold everything that you are back, all it's going to do is it's going to come out in a worse way at a worse time. You
So
just have to be
Nix,
smart about it.
I want to hear the woman's side of all this kind of discussion. So Nix, what's your take on this?
Specifically,
Yeah, about like the suppressing of emotions and whatnot. Like, yeah, like what's as I want to hear like a woman's version of all this, like how you see it.
honestly, I've never really been in favor of suppressing emotion. I honestly just don't see it as very healthy for anyone. Like, I mean, sometimes there's times where you just gotta kind of bite your tongue, right? But like, full on suppression, I don't know. It's just,
I mean, to be fair, and this is from the outside looking in with that kind of sphere, I've always kind of thought that women were a little bit more mature with their emotions and kind of understood what to do with them. There was never really that need that guys have, but again,
not
that's
always. Not always.
Yeah. Plus,
Well-
I'd argue, and Nix, you're free to dispute this. I feel like women kind of have like a better support network. Women are more likely to talk to each other about kind of things, whereas guys kind of sometimes not.
It depends on the woman and the people she keeps in her life.
Well, that and men and women experience motion slightly differently.
Exactly, yeah.
If you look at the way that society, and I hate using that term because that's a very blanket and generic term, but like
we live in a
if you look at the
society.
way, well, if you look at the way that emotions, well, like the performance of emotions are treated on the sexes, like that actually has a bearing on the way you feel the emotion. For example, if there was this study that showed that, or the experiment where a woman was crying in public at like a Burger King or something, and people would come up to her and be like, "What's wrong? Are you okay? Do you need some help?" A guy did the same thing, and people were like, "Sir, you're making our customers nervous. Could you please leave?"
Yeah,
Right, and
yeah.
that's-
It's like
Yeah.
it's. I mean, honestly, like you're talking about those Dateline things. Remember the ones where it's like a man starts to yell at a woman in public. You got like three guys coming out of the woodwork instantly, and like,
On
and then
bodyguards,
versus
yeah.
like then you had like the woman yell at the guy, and like people just walk right by and they ask him, it's like, oh yeah, he probably did something to deserve it.
Yeah, well, it's more like I mean, that's one of the byproducts of the differences between how the sexes portray or feel emotions, but it's also like to get less personal and get more clinical. Go back to our designs way back when we were cavemen. Like one of us were hunters, the other ones were gatherers. Like women were the communal people, men were the lone wolves. Men were the one that went out for days on end to go and kill shit and come back with it. And the way that they carried emotions, fear, anger, all that, yeah, those are surface emotions. But if they were to have explored the softer side and cried or whatever, they're not going to, like, when a woman is with a community and she does that, it's like, oh, okay, that you're communicating something to people around you, and you're saying, something's wrong, I need help or whatever.
At most, at the very most extreme, the man did it with his wife in their tent in their privacy. Like at the very most extreme in those
Confidant.
times. Yeah, and there's the other thing where it's like the fear and the anger. A man had a channel for it. He was hunting an animal. So a hunter was taught that fear, that anger, focus it on the hunt, focus it on the animal. And that is a potent tool. Like war, like when you can focus your fear, your anger onto a singular thing, that is powerful. That is like really friggin' powerful.
Yeah.
And then like like that is how men can take down bears.
Yeah.
You know, like, but also it's like let's just look at media. Like, look at how many times like men are driven by purpose. How many stories do we have where it's like an old warrior is like, oh, I'm at the end of my rope, and all of a sudden a young buck comes along, and all of a sudden the man is full of life because he has something to live for, something to die for, something to fight for, to take care of this young pup and raise him up. Like we're like Mandalorian, God of War, and I think going back to the therapy thing, I think mental health, the reason why it's failing men en masse is therapy is geared towards women, because
It is.
the
Like
way that
education.
you help men versus the way that you help women, like how many times like men will literally build a shed with sticks rather than go to therapy. Like how many
Well,
times have you seen that meme?
Again, a study that we saw when I was in developmental psychology
You
talking
want
about
a man to get through his feelings? Give him a shovel. Tell him to dig a hole.
no, well, that's the thing is like when you wanted to get information from an abused child that was a girl, you would talk with her, and you would possibly like, you know, you bring the toys or whatever, you bring props, but you're in a one-on-one verbal communication with them. You're basically at their level. You know, you're like, you're in a safe space, you can share, you're fully privy to share or whatever, and that's generally how you can get that information out. Whereas with boys, little boys that are abused, if you want to get the information out of the boy, hey, we got a puzzle we got to put together. You want to help me put this puzzle together? Sure. And then you start throwing in the questions, you know, randomly while the two of you are you're not even focusing on the actual questions. You're more focused on the puzzle. And that's when the kid starts divulging, oh yeah, my dad did this or my mom did this. And it's like, okay, like you can't treat the male and the female mind identically, because they're not. And that's why our education system is failing boys so badly right now.
Yeah, like
Men are
what
purpose-driven and goal-driven. Women are often community-driven. Sorry, I had to get that in.
and there's nothing wrong with either of those. Like I'm just gonna say,
Mm.
but like the thing is,
No, they're
like,
both
it's like,
needed.
It's like the
Exactly.
old school teacher when the boys were roughhousing. The old school teacher, who's often a male, would say, "Enough." He would say, "Enough. That's enough." Like whereas a more modern teacher would be like, "Stop it."
Don't do
here's the
that.
di- Don't do that. The difference between the words is by saying enough. Like the teacher is saying, "Hey, there is a time and place for that. You have reached your limit. We're not saying what you're doing is wrong, but it's not here. That's enough of that. Simmer down, kind of thing." Versus stop it is they're invalidating that kind of behavior.
It's focusing the energy versus putting an end to the energy.
Like that. That's why. That's why sports were so important to.
Oh yeah.
Or even gym class. Is an outlet for that anger and that aggression and that kind of behavior. That's why American football is so prominent in high schools. I get to literally tackle someone and I get rewarded for it. Yeah.
Well, that's where like all this ADD shit and like all the Ritalin and all the medication on our kids stuff
Why do you
came
like
from.
if it's not football in other countries, whether it's rugby, lacrosse, football, there's always some sort of full contact sport that is prevalent in high schools in literally any country. It's always some sort of full contact sport.
Well, yeah, and the whole like, oh, he won't settle down or he won't this, because boys don't have this same disposition to sit still and listen. That is dominantly a female trait, and that's why women are better listeners. They listen with both sides of their brain. There's a study that shows if you want a man to remember something based on what you want them to remember, if it's something emotional or factual, you could actually talk to them on one side of their ear or the other. So if you want something to be emotionally remembered, talk to them on their left ear so that their right brain will listen. And then opposite, if it's something factual, like a number, like remember this phone number, and they'll
like for example, you could train a guy where it's like a woman could be like rubbing his ear saying like, "Hey, remember this," and then after a while, all she has to do is rub his ear, and he'll remember it.
Yeah, Pavlovian. Yeah, that's classical conditioning.
It's Pavlovian conditioning, but it's also just men are very action focused.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I was a kid, and my mother was.
Sorry, go ahead. I was interrupting you, Kieran.
And my mother was complaining, oh, he doesn't sit still, he doesn't sit still, he doesn't listen. You know what my dad used to do? He used to take me outside to the backyard and say, okay, son, go run a lap. And so
happened to me too.
And giggling, I'd go run a lap around the backyard. And if I was still too energetic, I'd go, nope, not enough. Take another one. And he'd keep doing that again and again and again, running me out of my energy, keeping me active until I was tired enough to sit still and listen.
Like, you can have a guy that is forgetful as crap in his 60s, but he's been married for 30 years. You ask him what his wife was wearing the first time they kissed when they were 17, he will describe that outfit to a T.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I still remember.
Like, literally, I can literally, like, when I first lost my virginity, I can still describe the room to you, to like, exactly. I can envision it perfectly to this day.
But yeah, it's just one of those things that, you know, the way our brains work is entirely different. It's not, neither one is wrong. It's just each one needs to be addressed in its own way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem is because before, both like mental health and teaching was both men and women were in the job field. Like, you had a mixture of the two. Nowadays, both fields are entirely dominated by women, and even the men are in the field have to kind of like it's a women-dominated field, and sure, it works for women, but like you're kind of failing men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, the other problem is, you know, women tend to draw towards the caring fields. You know, the nurturing fields, teaching, nursing. You know, it's not
the Scandinavian study.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean that's where like the discrepancies with the so-called pay gap comes from. You know, it's not like employers are deliberately paying women less. No, it's just women, you know, on average.
They're drawn to the field.
Also, Nix, please speak up. I feel really bad.
Yeah, I know, we're like mansplaining.
Yeah, we're just dominating this. It could help to have
either call us out or validate us or whatever. Please just speak up.
Patriarchy.
Yeah, she's like,
I'm being oppressed. No, but I honestly just haven't had really a whole lot to say.
Help,
you guys are kind of I feel like you guys have been covering the bases pretty well.
Yeah, it's just we had actually have a woman in the stream, and like it was like we wanted to at least kind of let her speak. Like we're pressing you so bad, we're actually giving you time to speak. That's how much of oppressors we are. But what do you think about like the dichotomy between like the female and the male? How we look at the world, and how we need to be approached differently? What's your take on that?
You know, I say that is pretty much right. There's like, I don't know, there a lot of feminists like this whole idea of how like, oh, women can do whatever the hell men can do, blah 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 blah. But like, there are differences between the sexes. And my mom, who worked in worked in the pool business for quite a long time, still working in it somewhat, worked in construction for a while, will tell you straight up, she's a very strong woman physically. She's not half as strong as some of the men out there. She's pulling her weight, but she knows, like, and will tell you outright, no, there are stronger men than me.
I mean, like, who has seen the video of the high school soccer team of boys defeating the U.S. national women's team, and like it's like a freaking blowout?
Right.
That was sad. The pensioners, they had a bunch of 60-plus-year-old guys defeating the women's national soccer team.
God, they're just dunking on them.
Well, the thing is it's
I mean, yeah,
we're looking
it's
at
just
this.
a factual thing. It's just I had to put a joke in there somehow just to make it not seem so utterly pathetic.
It's this Marxist, communist, feminist. They're all the same thing, by the way. Bullshit about trying to get the sexes to compete against each other, and it's gonna go poorly for both of us. Like even the most quote unquote misogynistic male asshole or whatever is fully aware that he came from a woman. Like without a woman, he wouldn't exist. So we should be focusing more on what we can complement the other with. Like honestly, like look at it. Like again, going back the clinical route, going back to the primordial route. Why would you ever think it would be a good idea to send a bunch of women who could perpetuate your tribe out to battle when you have a bunch of disposable men who are physically designed for it?
Oh, you just kind of hit the nail on the other aspect is men are treated like we're disposable. We're like Kleenex to a lot of these women, both in like the life or death stuff, but also sexually. And that is something that's really hitting hard for a lot of young boys is the disposability of it. You know,
well,
we're women, we rule the world. Oh, all you stinky men. Once we figure out how to create artificial sperm, we don't need you anymore. It's like it's kind of creating I've seen it firsthand, the amount of young boys that are blackpilled. It is sad.
Yeah,
well that's
Go ahead.
I think that's kind of the crux of it, though, is a boy becomes a man when he realizes he has no value unless he can provide a service or do something. That he does not have an innate value the way that women do. And that's where when you see the women who get hit by the wall, so to speak, or the women that get old, and they're like, I'm being treated so terribly. It's like, no, you are being treated like a man. Welcome to the hell that we've had.
I am so glad we finally get it. What is it? The phrase that they threw at us all throughout the 2010s? Equality looks like oppression to the privileged, or something to that effect. They threw that at us all throughout the 2010s. Now we're throwing it back at them, and they can't stand it.
Well, it's because as a guy gets older, his value improves. He's acquired assets. He's done more. And it sounds sexist, but it's true. But as a woman gets older, her value doesn't. You know.
Why do you think there was such a hubbub when Chris Evans married a 26-year-old? He was what 20-year age difference or something.
Yeah,
it's I'm sorry, he's Chris Evans. Also she's 26 years old. Come on.
Yeah, it's not like she's a teenager or something. Yeah.
If she was 18, even if it's legal, I could maybe see that. But at 26, you're out of college.
Yeah.
You're in your career.
You can buy a house.
Come the frick, yeah.
So the different thing that a lot of them were throwing around, a lot of the people bashing it were throwing around power dynamics. There's a power dynamic.
There's a power dynamic in the bedroom. That's the thing they don't talk about. We're sure, there's a life power dynamic, but women have the ultimate power in the bedroom.
Oh yeah. Well, women have the ultimate decider in a relationship. It's a woman who defines the terms of the relationship. A guy has the option. I'm leaving.
And throughout history, women have ruled from the shadows. That is a fact. You don't think all these kings throughout history, when they're better than their wives, the queen's maybe you should do this. You're a big, strong man. You should really invade that country. You don't think after the man gets the best loving of his life from this wife that he doesn't listen to what she's saying in that pillow talk? I mean, come the frick on. Women have had power throughout history.
That's one of the things they've been throwing around from what I've seen, the detractors. Is that, there's a power imbalance because he's older and he's rich and famous and blah, blah, blah. It's
she can divorce him and take half his assets. You want to know the real power is she can literally divorce him right now and take half of his money and everyone will celebrate her. That is the power imbalance right there. Sorry. Yeah. I'm getting worked up.
I don't see the problem in him and her getting married. I don't, because they're both legal adults. Oh, but there's a power imbalance. Who the fuck cares? There's a power imbalance in everything.
I wish them the best. I wish them all the best, honestly.
Yeah.
Too. They seem very happy with each other.
Yeah. And then supposedly there's some pictures of she met him at fan meets when she was a little girl. Okay, she was young once. She met him. Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the one thing I kind of wanted to touch on was something that Chris kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, is we need to stop viewing this as a competition, as a, one wins, the other loses, because that's not how it ever was in the beginning. It was a zero-sum game.
Yes.
It was a competition of cooperation. We were complements.
Here's the base facts, and I think everyone's going to agree with me on this. Men bring something to a relationship. Women bring something. It's only when we work together that the real success can happen. Okay, like men and women complement each other. Like it's like what men have, women lack, and vice versa. Like if you look at like the strengths and weaknesses of women, we are designed to complement each other. There is no inherently better sex. Okay,
Contrast and complement.
There is no superior gender. It's one can do one thing, the other can do something. Where the other fails, the other succeeds. It's literally, we're designed for each other.
And if we would just be willing to take on our roles, whatever that ends up being for whatever age, because depending upon the age, some level of the roles will be redefined, but there is a certain degree of, one does this, the other can do this. If we were willing to take it on, I'm pretty sure most everybody would be a lot happier just in general.
Yeah, like
being like,
I think the only one of the big things that I think modern stuff is, if women want to be scientists, let them be scientists. If a woman can be a firefighter, let her be a firefighter. Like I'm all for removing those kind of sexist notions of, yes, and it is sexist, that women can't do X. If a woman is perfectly capable of doing a job, let her do a job. Same thing with a man. If a man wants to be a ballerina, who cares? Like whatever.
Just don't make special considerations.
Outcome.
Well, that's the thing is, like, if a woman wants to be a firefighter, sure. This is the physical requirements of to be a firefighter. We're not going to change them because you're a woman. If you can't do them, don't expect us to change reality. We'll
tell that to the U.S. military.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at, is we are now feminized to the point where we have weakened everything to basically turn all of our women into counterfeit men and turn all of our men into worthless soy effete people. Like, oh, let's go walk in their high heels. No, isn't there this big challenge, like military challenge, where some women have entered it, but I don't think any of them have actually finished it or something. I'm not really familiar.
I think it was. I'm not sure if it was a challenge, but they literally was took a section of the women and they're like, all right, here is the requirements. This is the male requirement for entering the military. You need to hit this for you to pass, and none of them were able to pass. They hit
that's
the female requirement just fine, but they couldn't hit the male requirements.
And that's okay. That's the job. You couldn't do
it. That's why when they are considering having women in combat roles, a lot of the men were like, no, because if you're in the shit, you got to be able to depend on your buddy. Like if you get wounded, then you got to be able to depend on them to carry your ass out.
Oh, exactly.
And the thing is, men struggle carrying other soldiers out because these men, their bodies themselves, like soaking wet, are usually 200, 250 pounds. And then you add on 100 pounds of gear. So you got this guy, he's carrying 300 pounds on his back. Even a normal soldier would struggle with that. Now they have that be a woman? No, not even a chance. And so if a man can't depend on his buddy to carry him out, what's the point of even going into combat with him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's not like there's no roles for women in the military. It's just, maybe not frontline combat.
Mm-hmm.
No, Heinlein even said that. The Starship Troopers, the movie kind of did it an injustice because Dizzy wasn't a girl in the book. He was actually a guy. And they found that women make better pilots than men. So that Ibana's there, she was a pilot because she was a woman.
You see this in our military, in the modern military. There's a lot of female pilots because women make good pilots because women tend to have better reaction times. They like women process multiple inputs, and they're like women actually make really good pilots.
Well, have you ever heard of G-LOC?
Yep, I know about G-LOC. That is some crazy stuff.
So G-LOC stands for gravity-induced loss of consciousness. And because a woman's heart is actually closer to her brain than a man, and she has more cutaneous fat to dampen the G-forces, women can actually withstand a higher threshold of G-forces without losing consciousness than men. And if you're in a fighter jet, there you go. Like,
well, there you go. The only advantage that men have over women in these situations is men tend to have more of a competitive spirit.
Mm-hmm.
It's why like women, you on paper should be better at competitive video games, but you hardly see women at top level of video game competitions. Even though in the rules there's no rule stating like a woman can't compete in League of Legends or some other tournament, but you hardly ever see it. It's because men kind of have this inherent competitive drive to them that kind of pushes them over the edge for a lot of that.
Mm. Yeah, but it's funny because in the right situation, I've watched women become the most competitive. Oh God!
Oh my God! Like
they want that guy. They're gonna have that guy.
yeah. Like yeah.
But yeah, it just. I mean, to go back to the whole like instead of competing, we should be complimenting. Like that is a huge disservice that communism has done to our country. I mean, Yuri Bezmenov warned us about it, but like all of that, like women's lib stuff, like the stuff to get women into the workforce or whatever, like that, the whole like women can do it too stuff is a result of capitalism, not a result of feminism. And feminism takes credit for it, which sucks because in capitalism, the only thing that matters is money. So, if you can do the job and you happen to be a woman, then more power to you. And any business that would deny that, like if a woman was the best person for the job and they denied her it, that business would go under.
Money.
Yeah, that business would go under. And as a result,
did you ever see the studies where like they took the names, the genders, and the races off of all the applicants?
Yep.
And they hired based on merit, and it was all white dudes.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that one. Or all Asian dudes, and yeah, like, did you see Elon Musk's staff at Twitter after he got rid of all the dead weight?
They're all Indian dudes.
Yeah, it's all Asian guys, white guys, and Indian dudes. Like, yeah,
because they're the hardest workers.
Well, the thing is, but it's like, what does that say? Like from a demographic perspective, it says that when you're clearing, like, if you're hiring somebody for anything other than the merit of their skills, then you're going to start getting a diverse workplace or blah blah blah, and it's like that you're doing a disservice to your company. Like, hire the best people for the job. If your company isn't diverse, so be it. Some will, some won't. You might have a company that's all women because it just happens to be that your job, women are better at it. Like, no guy is going to cry foul and be like, how dare you hire women to do this when I'm better equipped.
It's like the old thing. It's like equality for CEOs, but not equality for garbage men.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Like they all want the equality when it comes to the air conditioned offices, but when the garbage men or like construction workers,
the miners,
crickets.
Yeah.
Oh, the men can go die in the mines. That's fine.
Yeah. Or the deadliest catch. Like how many women you see on those lobster boats out in Alaska?
Yeah. I think I saw one.
Yeah, there is one.
Entire show. One.
Yep. Good for her, man. Like,
you know what's funny? Like, whoever's seen Ice Road Truckers, like, you know how it had like that woman
God,
there?
Yeah.
She was actually a good driver. Like, she was actually legit she was actually legitimately good at her job. Like, yeah, she was attractive, but like she was actually, good at her job too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well, going back to the multitasking thing too, is driving requires you to be a multitasker. And that's probably why we see a lot of young girls get into accidents with their cell phones and stuff, distracted drivers, is because they're so good at multitasking that they throw in an unnecessary distraction challenge because they're bored with how easy it is to drive.
Yeah.
that's
like,
why
I can do this.
and that's why at the top level, it's all men. Like look at how hard NASCAR is in bringing women in. Like
Danica
it's just
Patrick.
so weird. Well, the thing is, Danica Patrick actually had a decent career in F1, but as soon as she went into NASCAR, she just like petered out. I don't know what was going on there.
Well, the other
Danica
thing
Patrick
is
did a
that
decent job in F1. Like she had it like decent.
yeah, the other thing is, women are really, really, really good at doing a number of things simultaneously, whereas men excel in positions that require single-minded focus and drive.
Yeah, that's why like driving is a very single-minded focus. Or kind of thing.
Racing, yeah.
Yeah, racing, or any type of like like even video games. Like sure you're doing different things, but it's still tunnel vision kind of.
Yeah, you're tunnel visioned in.
Yeah. Well, that's also a funny thing because when men are given a single task, they're more relaxed. Yeah, or at least, and again, I'm only speaking from what I've read. I mean, this information has probably been contradicted, and these studies maybe have debunked or whatever. But yeah, like men generally don't get bored. Like boredom is a female trait.
Like,
men
did you
find
ever?
it? Oh, sorry.
Did you ever see that video where they took a group of young boys, group of young girls, and they set them into a house? So like, and they said like, all right, you have everything you need for a week, and we are going to lock the doors. And they taped it, and the boys they like destroyed the house, and whatnot. And there was fights and whatnot. But the girls they had like a schedule for all the stuff. But there's a lot of passive aggressive stuff, because like the boys are outwardly monstrous, inwardly peaceful. Okay, girls are the opposite, where they're outwardly peaceful, inwardly monstrous. Like both of them, both genders.
They're monsters.
I realized as I was saying that, like, both genders have the capacity to be monsters, but like the way it manifests is differently in each gender. Is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean, you can even bring up the survival game where they did that, where they did a battle. Basically left like 12 people of each group on the same island, and they could not help each other. And what do you see?
The girls were at the guys' camp within an hour.
Yeah, the guys had built up a camp. They were sipping out of coconuts. Sure, they beat the shit out of each other every once in a while, but for the most part, they kind of had like their little peaceful oasis. The girls were constantly snipping and jibing at each other, and then eventually they gave up building their camp and tried to seduce the guys to let them into their camp.
Oh, I saw that video. Like even like the producers even like let a pig into the girls' camp and they refused to slaughter it.
Oh man!
Like they adopted it, gave it a name and shit. Like that's your dinner. You don't name your dinner.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
food.
Like this is like
I
this,
would do the same.
It's like I realize you named Bob, but Bob is dinner. So I'm gonna kill Bob and I'm gonna cook Bob and I'm gonna feed you Bob.
Yeah, because Bob is delicious.
Yeah, with barbecue sauce.
You're not wrong. It's probably very delicious. But no.
Baby back ribs.
I mean, honestly, just right here, there's that dichotomy. Nix is freaking out about us, joking over slaughtering a fictional pig named Bob. No offense.
It's probably like I'll take I'll take a leg.
But as soon as there's someone
You love
starts
bacon,
rumbling,
but still.
like, oh
Yeah.
as soon as she starts smelling that bacon, like Bob who? Bob who?
I'd be crying while I.
Yeah, this is making my morning process go better.
You will be crying because you have been so hungry and you're now eating good food. That's why you're crying. You'll say it's because of the pig, of course, but you'll be crying because, oh my God, this bacon is so delicious. I haven't eaten in 5 days.
Yeah, hunger kind of makes emotions go different ways.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh
I mean, desperation is like the biggest catalyst of all,
Oh yeah, necessity. Yeah,
necessity is the mother of all invention,
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you want to take it on an even larger scale with that level of thing, if you look at, you know, most of the matriarchal societies that are still alive today, they basically hovered within the Stone Age. There are still societies out there today that have never left the Stone Age, and most oftentimes the common trait is that they were led by women.
Well, it's because with guys like, oh, you bash the tiger with a rock. Well, here I took the rock and I made it pointed. Oh, well, I took the pointed rock, and I put it on a stick now. So ha! You know, it's just like that kind of like natural one-upmanship that drives you know.
Exactly. You know, whereas the historically predominantly male-led societies have put men on the moon and constantly try and one up. Yeah, sure. It's heavily aggressive on the surface, but it's basically just a healthy spirit of competition.
Yeah.
I don't know, like I kind of look back on some of like the old tribal societies where it's like the village to raise a family, and like you know, like one of the things that I feel that like does let down the elderly, where like in the olden times, I wanted to bring this up actually a couple hours ago. We just talked about this stuff, but like in the olden times, you had the elderly raise the children while the adults kind of did other stuff, and you even saw like shades of that up until like the 50s, I'd say, because like it used to be, you know, when grandma or grandpa got too old, they move in with the parents and they take care of the kids. They eat some of the burden off of the parents for the kids, you know. And that works great because it eases the burdens off the parents, lets them kind of do more stuff. Plus, it gives it gives the elder something to do, but also lets the elder pass down their wisdom to the child. It was literally a win-win scenario. And I'd say probably around the 60s, you know, when it was like, oh, grandma's getting too old, I don't want to take care of her, shove her in a nursing home. You know, like, and like, I feel like things really started to break down.
I think, you know, having talked the way we have, especially with the subjects we've been handling recently, I think it could be safe to say that there are things in the past that we did that are better than what we did today. But there are also things that we do today that are leagues better than what we did in the past. The trouble is we have to be able to determine what worked well versus what does not.
I think that is an amazing summation of this stream, and I think that is actually a really good place to let things kind of go from here. So, so what we're going to do
before we head out, this does not need to be the end of the conversation. If you want to, you know, keep talking about this kind of stuff, feel free to do so in the comments.
Yes, of course. So yeah, we're gonna kind of go around here and kind of talk about things. But before we do, if you made it this far, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, I'm gonna give myself a little shout out here. I have a Patreon, so that if you want to support me, see videos early, and just kind of get access to stuff, you know, here you go. Link is right here if you want to check it out. Yep. So we're kind of doing that, kind of giving you a little interest in that. So yeah. So that's a Patreon, and then yeah. So we're gonna go with Nix, Shiro, and Chris, and then me. So. Yep, Nix, anything you want to say? Anything you want to shout out?
Not particularly. I've got nothing going on.
All right.
Totally follow me on Twitter, Funny Girl Nix.
Thank you. And then Shiron, where can people find you, and any last words you want to say?
Yeah, of course. You can find me on twitch.tv/loremaster_Shiro. Shiro is spelled the same way my name is here. I'm currently on a small hiatus, but I do some guerrilla streams, so feel free to try and catch those.
Right there.
I will be actually rebranding sometime either this year or next year as a VTuber, so feel free to catch that when that happens. The other thing that I have to shout out is not something necessarily of my own, but it's something of my friend. Just like Nyx is releasing his comic, in October, my friend is actually starting his Kickstarter for his video game here on the 30th of September and into October. So if you can find Maple Forest on Kickstarter, feel free to get that some love as well.
Sure, and if you have a link, drop it in the private chat. I'll share it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, and then while Shiron is grabbing that, Chris, anything you want to shout out? Anything you want to say? Tell me how awful I am.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me on, man. I guess if you want to check out my my Twitter and watch me get into trouble, or X or whatever it is now, you can hit me up at Infinitel Comic, or you can head on over to our website, InfinitelChronicles.com, and check out kind of the progress of our second book campaign. First book is available on Amazon now, and yeah, we've got some cool goodies coming for the crowdfunding for book 2, and book 2 is going to be huge. So
Be
yeah,
huge.
Yep, with a Y. Double everything. We even have we have 2 different art teams working on 2 separate books that's the same story, so you get 2 different windows into this world.
Ooh.
Yeah, and there's free previews on the website, so you can read up to the first 15 pages and see if it's your bag, baby. But yeah,
it's your bag, baby.
Yeah, so check us out at InfinitelChronicles.com, and thanks again for having me, man.
All right, Shiron, you got the link?
I'm actually having a little bit of trouble finding it. The way Kickstarter has its search layout's a little wonky. If you can find the search bar on Kickstarter, just look up Maple Forest. It's spelled how you think it is.
It's all good. It's all good. So, all right. So, lastly, don't forget to check out my Kickstarter. We're still doing signups. So,
Oh yeah.
So, yep, you're notified to go to launch. It's literally 2 weeks from today. So this is how we're gonna do the launch. All right, it's gonna be part of the Friday Night Frenzy. All right.
Ooh.
So we're gonna launch it live on the Frenzy. So Chris, I hope you'll be here. Nyx, you'll be here. Maybe we'll get some live donations. And then anyone who does donate, feel free to shout at anyone who donates. If you want to come on and like talk for about 5 minutes or so, I'll let you on and whatnot. But you will get a shout out here on it. So just let us know. And yeah, we'll be going for about 1,500. I'm sure you guys got me on that one. And I got stretch goals up to 3,000. If you get me there, there will be another set of stretch goals. So we'll see how that goes. So this has been Nyx from the Phoenix Press. And remember, I can only show you the door. You're the one who walks through it.